Hi everybody, welcome back to Whiskey Gulch. I'm Kenny Hull, and today I want to show you what I do when I glue my knives together. And I'm not doing production. I used to do production, and I used to do twice as many in a day. I am not doing that. It is way too much work. It was way too much work just doing the handles and getting the handles ready today. I had all these blades sitting here in a pile because they were keepers that I've done over the last couple of months. And, I kind of got tired of seeing them sitting there. They wasn't really doing anything, so I decided to fit handles to them. One of the things that I do when I have multiple blades is rather than pick a blade and I got a bucket of rather than pick up a blade and try to fit a handle to it, what I usually do is I grab a handle and then I go along and I see if it fits any blades. And it usually works out pretty good for me that way. I don't know how you do it. That's just, excuse me, that's just what works for me. So today what I want to show you is my glue technique. Another thing that I want to let you know is I've done all my handle work prior to gluing. So the only thing left to do is to glue the blade in and do the wrap and a couple of finishing touches. The blade's been shaped, it's been sanded, and it's been polished. And it's been fitted like so. So my next step is to glue these in. A lot of people use toothpicks. I have toothpicks. They're a little bit more for propping up blades and things like that. If I don't have anything else, they're pretty handy. So I'm going to do enough glue for about half of these blades. I use a 2-part gel. And the thing about gel is it stands up. So this is a tool that I made. Let's see if I can get in there a little bit closer. I like a little bit of a paddle. And that is simply a 16-penny nail. I drove it into an antler and I pounded it flat, and it's just gotten smoothed out over the years because after the glue dries on it, I just wire brush it on the wire wheel over there. It's pretty warm in here, so the glue's probably going to mix pretty well. The only time I ever really have much trouble getting the glue to mix well is if it's cold. If it's 30 degrees or 35 degrees outside, when it's cold in here, it's been cold all night, and the glue just does not want to combine. So take a little dollop like that. Normally I stand up for this. This is probably why my back hurts all the time. Could be because I'm getting old. I don't know. I didn't say that. That wasn't out loud. So now what happens when I stick it in there See how the glue sticks up a little bit like that? And this is why I like the paddle, because I'm going to take that and I'm going to kind of lay it off a little bit. Same with the top. And the other thing too is if there's a pretty good gap on top or on the bottom, I like to fill that in. Again, that's why I use a paddle rather than a plain toothpick. And if it's a little bit tall, don't worry about it. I have 1, 2, 3 different Dremels that I can use to take the glue off after it hardens. Set that down and we move on to the next. Hopefully I'll get these out before the glue hardens. It's like it's supposed to be a 5-minute epoxy. Sometimes it's a 3-minute epoxy and sometimes it's a half-hour epoxy. This one, now this one is just going like that. So it's the arrowhead notches, so I'll just wipe that off. That's all that one has to be. Don't worry about it if you get it on the outside of the handle, if your handles are polished. If your handles aren't polished, I would recommend trying not to get it on the outside. If they are polished, then the glue usually just picks off really easy. I try to fit them in too where it's a little bit snug, right? So that'll hold in there. And the reason I do that is so that the blade stays straight. If it's loose and I put it down wrong, the blade's going to be cockeyed off one way or the other. But you got to be careful. You don't want to cut yourself. And you don't want to snap the blade. Obsidian is quite a bit more fragile than some of the other materials being napped. That's a particularly nice piece of rainbow obsidian. The other thing, it also helps if the blades are tight. I don't have to worry about the blade falling out while I'm filling in the gap with the epoxy. Now I got enough glue for one more, but not a big one. I guess we went 3/4 instead of half with the knives. Just feed that in there. Just fill that in. It just stands up in there. It's just hanging out. Some blades fit tighter in the handles than others. And this one seems to want to drop when I hold it horizontal. All right, I've got two more. Got the glue off before it dried this time, so I can just use that paper. If you heard that, that was an air bubble in the epoxy. And when that happens, usually one of the colors comes out more. And to get an even mix, I try to guess how much that was, and I'll take that out so I can keep it as even as possible. Anybody who's done this and got the portions off, they know. First, that's a big old dollop. Work it onto the sides. Did I make enough? I might not have made enough. So the other one is going to require quite a bit. And this one does too. So in case you don't know, the spring block is hollow. I'm not going to fill that up. But what I do have to do is go inside and then work the epoxy into the gap from the inside. And then that also creates a little bit of extra bond with the epoxy on the inside wall of the horn. Alright, so bottom's good. Take a little bit off. I think I got just enough here. Those can dry for a little while. And, that's a pretty knife, huh? That's gold sheen obsidian. The blade is covered in dust because the handle fitting is really dusty. That's some spalted alder that I picked up on the hill out back. All right. Hit that subscribe button. See you next time. Thanks.